Greetings and salutations to everybody out there in podcast land. This is the Judo Chop Suey Podcast, and I'm your host, Judo Dave Roman. Want to wish every single one of you, at least the male listeners out there, a belated Happy Father's Day. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. In an era where men are belittled on TV, they're made to look like idiots that need a woman to clean up their messes or whatever. I want to give a shout out to all the real men out there that stand for what they believe in, aren't afraid to speak their mind, and most importantly, are a role model for our younger generation. Now, you don't necessarily have to be a father to be honored in this diatribe of mine here. I'm talking about judo sensei, Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructors, anybody that volunteers their time for Little League, anybody that volunteers their time to be a big brother, let's say. You are all male role models, and there is nothing more amazing and more powerful than a man that sets his mind to do something. And when that man sets his mind to do something that is good, something that is creative, and something that is constructive, beautiful things happen. And I want to give a shout out to all the real men out there, whether you're fathers, whether you're actual fathers or not. But for all of you that are male role models, fathers, whatever, sensei, Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructors, whatever the case may be, I'm going to crack open a cold one and pour myself a glass and raise a toast in honor of all of the real men out there. Now, on this episode of the Judo Chop Suey Podcast, I'm going to bring back a former guest of mine, Mr. Jonah Ewell of 510 Judo and Wrestling, is going to join me to talk about a lot of what's going on in his club, to talk about things that he's learned since he was last on the podcast about being a judo instructor, about running a business, things that have changed in his life, and things that are different, things that have remained the same. So we're just going to catch up with Jonah and find out how his business is doing. I'll give you a hint. It's doing fantastic. So I'm very excited to bring him on the podcast once again. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about some things that I've been watching on TV. Now, I promise, I'm not bringing back the housekeeping stuff to talk about, movies and whatnot. But there's just some things lately that I gotta talk about. What can I say? But I'm gonna keep it really brief. So here it goes. Dark Phoenix, pass. Horrible movie. I watched it a couple of days ago. It was a big disappointment. For all of you that are X-Men fans, put it this way: I liked The Last Stand better than this movie. On HBO, there's this 5-episode show called Chernobyl. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Oh yeah, and earlier tonight, I got 2 more stripes on my white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm very excited about that. I am very grateful for the recognition. So yeah, hooray for me. I am very excited about that. I really appreciate the recognition, like I just said. I am really enjoying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not going to lie about that. And every once in a while, I see these ridiculous comments online by old school judo guys that really put down Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and far be it for me to be the guy that fights for the honor of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something like that. But those kind of comments really bug the crap out of me, because it's not really fair, and they're really ignorant, quite frankly. And unfortunately, sometimes these guys, they're really with the closed mindset. They might join a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club, and it just so happens to be teaching one of those techniques that they've learned in judo like 20 years ago. And it's like, they're like, aha, you see, this is nothing but just judo on the ground with different rules. And it really isn't. It's really been a really eye-opening experience for me. And most of all, I love the process of being a student once again. Now, that doesn't mean that just because I'm a Nidan in judo that I'm some sort of instructor or anything like that. Of course, I will always be a student in judo, but you know what I mean. That the whole process of going through the ranks all over again and trying to work hard and find solutions to problems that I faced on the mats, rolling with bigger guys, rolling with younger guys, old school versus new school, that kind of thing. So it's really exciting for me to be a student once again. And again, I am very grateful for the recognition. I suppose the next stop for me would be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. And I've made this correlation before that to me, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt is kind of the equivalent in judo to the Sankyu rank. It's a milestone rank. It's an important rank. So for me, I'm not stopping Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu anytime soon. There's no way I'm going to stop. It's going to allow me to continue training for the long term, and my flexibility is improving little by little just by doing Jiu-Jitsu alone. And it's a lot of fun. Jiu-Jitsu allows me to train through injuries that I normally can't train through in judo. I've complained about my back spasms and a pulled groin. I think my pulled groin is finally, after 6 months, gone, I think. Today I did some pretty good randori with Judo Joe, and I was able to move the way that I want to move. I didn't feel any limitations. Of course, I still have my back spasms, but I can do judo with back spasms. I can't really, I can't be myself when I have a pulled groin doing judo. It's just, it limits me. It limits other people's abilities to do throws on me and stuff. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, jiu-jitsu. It allows me to train through injuries that normally I probably couldn't train or I don't want to say train. Probably practice through in judo. So I'm loving it, man. I admit it. I love it. All right, so enough about that. I would like to bring on my guest today. His name is Jonah Ewell. He is the head sensei of 510 Judo and Wrestling out in San Leandro, California, I believe. Hopefully he'll correct me on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonah Ewell.
Welcome back.
Jonah, welcome back to the Judo Chop Suey Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you back on. It's been about 2.5 years or so, and I swear I've made a promise to myself that all the people that I've interviewed, I'm gonna bring them back at some point in the future, and today is your day, my man. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
All right.
So the reason why I wanted to bring you back is I want to have a follow-up discussion on really how things have been going for you and your judo club. There's been a lot of changes. You and I talk a lot via email. I follow you on Instagram. I follow your things that have been going on in your life. And I wanted to bring you back on to discuss how your business is doing, the lessons you've learned since the last time we spoke, and just kind of just catching up in that sense. So Jonah, why don't you tell me a little bit about your current club right now? It's no longer Oakland Judo. It's now 510 Judo and Wrestling. So why don't you tell the listeners why the name change and what's been going on? We'll go maybe at a high level, what's been going on since we last talked, and then we'll kind of deep dive into some of the lessons that you have learned during this time. So tell me about 510 Judo and Wrestling.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we moved from Oakland, so we're no longer within the city limits of Oakland. So we had to change the name, and there was I went through a whole lot of different possible names, and a lot of people that are already in the club wanted to keep it Oakland Judo, but that just doesn't make sense to me because we're no longer in Oakland. So
right. How far are you from Oakland? How far away are you from Oakland?
I could walk from here, from the front door of my dojo. I could walk into Oakland in about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. So you're really close.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just went with 510 Judo. I mean, you could say 510, 510, whatever. And it's because that's our area code over here in the east side of San Francisco Bay Area. And so that's where we are. And we moved into our own space. In our previous space, we were sharing space with a weightlifting gym that was owned by one of my buddies, Jeff Bott. It's called Oakland Strength Factory, which is it's a great place, but it was time to get our own spot. So.
Right. So the last time I had you on the podcast, you were renting out of a business that was a t-shirt making company. And I believe the fellow was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. So you both were sharing that kind of space.
That's correct. Yes.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so you went from the t-shirt company to Oakland Strength and the Oakland Strength Factory, or were there a couple of other places in between?
No, it was just those two places. We started at my sensei's old dojo, which was in the same neighborhood, and he had his acupuncture business in the front and space to teach Tai Chi in the back. And so we started there. Then we moved to the t-shirt place, which was with my buddy Jose Ortega, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu. We're on the same Brazilian jiu-jitsu organization, which is the Carlson Gracie organization. And so we were sharing space there. And then I needed more space and more class time. So I moved to just down the street again, same neighborhood, to Oakland Strength Factory, which was owned by Jeff Bott, who's also Carlson Gracie teammate. Who's both those guys, they were purple belts and now they're both brown belts. So everyone's moving up. And and then we actually had, a huge mat space because in Oakland Strength Factory, because he had, it's like a big warehouse type thing. So we just took like a third or a quarter of the floor space and set up our mats there. And and then now we're over here. We got our own spot. So in beautiful San Leandro, California, by the way, which San Leandro is really nice. I didn't know much about San Leandro until we moved our business here, and it's really nice.
That's fantastic. Now, since you've moved a couple of places, have you been able to retain most of your students?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. The last three places, of course, we're all in the same neighborhood, so we didn't lose any people. Moving over here to San Leandro, we were about 5 or 6 miles away from the old neighborhood. So
okay,
we've lost a few, not many though. We've lost maybe like 3 or 4 kids, and mostly because it's just the parents don't want to drive down here, and but yeah, I would say most of our people are all the same.
Fantastic. No, that's great to hear. So the last time we spoke, you told me you had about close to 50 paying students, and then maybe another 30 that maybe weren't paying or paying a portion of those fees. What's your students numbers look like these days? Is it around the same? Have you grown quite a bit?
Oh, we've grown quite a bit. Actually, I also went back and listened to our old interview, and it was funny. It was really cool. It was like a time capsule. And at that time, what I told you was I had 50, I think it was 52 students, but only 36 of them were paying.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So now we're at about 117, and out of that, with the same there's some people that are listed as students, but they're not paying, like my sensei, and of course I wouldn't charge him, and various other things.
Of course.
So the number of people that are paying is just about 100. It goes up, it fluctuates month to month, but it's on an upward trend. So, but yeah, about 100.
That's really fantastic to hear, Jonah, especially when I talk about, or especially lately, I've been having conversations with different sensei and club owners about running their judo program as a business. And part of the reason why I wanted to bring you back on here is to catch up, but also to find out some of the lessons that you've learned over the past 2.5 years. So it was my understanding that way back when, you weren't really charging as much for judo lessons because you felt that in your area, maybe not in your immediate area, but locally, you had other judo instructors that maybe were to put it in a certain way, maybe more accomplished in terms of competition and their background and stuff. So I recall maybe you felt a little bit, well, I can't charge as much because I'm not this guy. But it's my understanding you've changed your rates over the past couple of years. Can you talk about that decision-making process and where you're at now and how you got there?
Sure. Yeah. Basically, I raised the rates slowly and gently over time over these past few years. And I only raise the rates when I'm adding services. So, for instance, when we moved from when we added, when we add more classes, We started out with just 2 classes a week and it was adults only. And then, now we have about 18 classes a week. So just like every time I would add a class or add a set of classes or add another program, then I would, I might kick it up about, $10 a month or so, 10 or $20 a month. And right now I'm at if was that part of your question? Did you want to know
Yes,
how much?
yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I'm very curious.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, it's all on my website, which is 510judo.com, by the way.
Okay.
So for kids, it's $119 a month. And for adults, it's between $119 and $139 a month. Just depends on how long you sign up for. So my kids program we don't have any long-term contracts for kids.
Okay.
Which I know is not it's not really industry standard. Most of the successful martial arts schools do have long-term contracts, or they offer long-term contracts. I don't, just because kids change their minds about things so often. So, and I just don't want to be in the position of going through the whole convincing a parent to sign their kid up for a year or 2 years when they're 8 years old, and so I made all the kids memberships month to month.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's $119 a month. And for adults, I just offer them the option. So usually for adults, I encourage them to try the month to month program, which is $139 a month. So just to see if they like it. And then once, they've done it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, they're like, okay, I'm definitely going to stick with this. Then, then they can always switch up to the 6-month membership, which is $129 a month, or the 12-month membership, which is $119 a month.
So I'm curious to know, because I've heard Travis Stevens, I've heard other people state that you should be charging at least $100 a month for judo if you're trying to be a full-time instructor, which I given that you're teaching 18 classes a week, I got to believe you're just about full-time. So was that hard for you to break that $100 barrier?
You mean for my psychologically or whatever?
Yeah, psychologically. Was that a difficult thing for you to do? Because I know in judo, I actually talked about this on my last episode, that sometimes we have this idea that judo should always be free, or we should keep the costs low and stuff. So I guess I'm curious, just if you want to call it psychologically, or if you felt, maybe you want to call it morally, whatever the case you want to call it. Was it hard for you to get those rates to where they're at today?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean, I work hard. I provide a good program, and so I set the rates where I think they should be, and if I didn't, there's 2 sides of it. One side is that there's if you look into business books, they'll talk about the psychology of pricing and how you don't want to compete. You don't want to turn martial arts into a commodity like corn or soybeans. It's you don't want people that are gonna you don't want to compete on price, basically. Look at me, I got the lowest price martial arts in town. Come on down, get some low price martial arts. That's not. It's a race to the bottom. Nobody wins. So if you offer a program that is priced, the same or higher as other martial arts programs in the area, then people can be like, oh, okay, I guess, people who don't know anything else about it would be like, oh, okay, I guess they're about the same. I guess I better check it out. And then on my side, if I'm charging that much, I feel an obligation.
Absolutely.
Worth that much to provide, a nice dojo, which we have now, and nice mats, and just a nice customer service, and just being friendly, and just making the whole thing a pleasant experience. That's basically what I want, is when people come to the dojo, they have a good time, they get their sweat on, they learn something, they're hanging out with their friends in a place that's peaceful and beautiful, and that's what I strive to provide. And that's what, if I was charging $50 a month, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't have enough money to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's great. I remember, if I recall correctly, commenting that I thought your prices were very low, given the fact that you live in the Bay Area, and I know how pricey living out there can be. So it sounds to me that you're now, I don't know much about the Bay Area other than the few times that I've been out there, but it seems to me that you're at a price where that makes the most sense in terms of what kind of what the cost of living is out there. It seems like you're charging a fair market value for sure. So
yeah, I think so. And and I as my competitors, I look at my competitors as, friendly competitors, obviously, as not just judo schools, but martial arts schools in general. So, and also martial arts schools, and also, kickboxing gyms and stuff like that. So if I'm, and I know that there are martial arts schools very close to me that are charging way more. They're charging close to like $200 a month. And that's for like, 2 or 3 classes a week.
Right. So what, you've got 18 classes a week. So can you tell me a little bit about what your schedule looks like and what kind of classes those are? Are they all judo? Since it's 5'10" judo and wrestling, is some of that wrestling? Do you have a separate wrestling coach? Tell me a little bit more about the program and the classes that you're offering, and, kids to adults, everything involved.
Yeah, so we have judo and wrestling. We're going to add jiu-jitsu pretty soon. But we have it's mostly judo. We have judo, let's see, for adults it's Monday through Thursday and then Saturday morning, and for kids it's Monday through Saturday. We have 2 wrestling classes a week for the kids, Monday and Wednesday afternoon. And let's see what else. Oh, on Wednesday night we do a no-gi judo class, which is just what it sounds like. It's judo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then Monday night we have a what I call old school judo, which basically means judo with leg grabs. I mean, we don't get into leg locks and all that stuff, but basically, so our Tuesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. classes. We have an 8 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday. That's mostly for that's the one where we have the most black belts and people are working out hard and doing a lot. It's more like it's like a judo workout. Everyone's kind of assumed to be at a certain level, and you're preparing for tournaments. So we're going by tournament rules. We just had a guy, Chris Moulton, who just got a bronze medal to senior nationals in the 90 kilo division. So that's very exciting. He's actually
very nice.
Although he actually technically he represents UC Berkeley judo, but I can't. Sorry, no, I'll get back to that. You asked me not to get off track.
No, don't worry about it.
Back to the schedule. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's yeah. Oh, we also have. Yeah, let's see. We also got. So 2 other things I should mention. We have tiny judo, which is for 3 to 5 year olds, which is really it's a really hilarious class. I like it a lot. 3 to 5 years old, they're not actually doing a lot of judo per se, like doing throws and stuff.
Sure.
It's like pre-judo. They're rolling around. They're learning how to bow. They're learning the etiquette. They're doing mostly newaza. Every once in a while we'll stand them up, but most of the time it's like we play. You disguise everything as a game, and like they come up. They're that age. They come up to you and they start they raise their hand like sensei, and like, yes, what's your question about the technique? And they're like, I played Roblox today, and you're like, oh, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you have an adult judo class or adult beginner judo class at all?
Yes, that was the next thing I was going to mention. So on Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 8, we do what we call our judo fundamentals class, and we usually don't do any rondori. We'll do like a few minutes of just kind of moving around, but most that is specifically for adult beginners, adult novices, whatever you want to call them. And so we spend a lot of time on ukemi, on how to do your rolls. We'll do how to shrimp, and how to the basic entry stuff, how to pull, to get your hikite and surite and all that stuff, and posture, and how to move, and how to grip, and how to keep your shoulders relaxed, and all this stuff. So all the stuff that so that if you go to the next class, you'll be other classes, you'll be kind of have some of the basics down. So, and that's been super helpful. That class is actually, honestly, that's our biggest adult class of the week. And we have, that's the class that people seem to prefer, is like the shorter class that focuses on the basics. And yeah, it's been a great way to ease people into judo, rather than like being like, okay, do like, 50 uchikomis and then we're going to do randori for half an hour. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I've talked about that many times. When I started judo as an adult, I always felt like I was an outlier, that I was kind of a psychopath in a sense that it did that kind of stuff. I mean, you could throw me right in, and if I get slammed and get hurt, I didn't care. But for the majority of people, that's not the case, and it sounds like you're bringing them up slowly. So I'm curious to know, between all these classes, the kids and adults, what kind of lessons have you learned yourself being an instructor, and how have you improved since the last time we talked?
Oh man, honestly, I think I've improved a lot. Not to toot my own horn, but just, if you
go ahead. Go right ahead. Go ahead and toot. So
no, I mean, you'd have to, you got to learn. Otherwise you got to grow. Otherwise you don't survive. But I would say basically I'm a lot more patient, and especially with the kids, like with kids, they're not going to be like perfect, like, and that's true for adults too. Like, you can't expect perfection. You want perfection, of course, that's the goal. But basically what I'm satisfied with is improvement. As long as I see improvement from week to week, in terms of, if they come regularly, and they're making improvement from where they were, that's the most important thing. Gosh, what else? As far as teaching, I don't know. Yeah, it's just it's good to always, you got to keep expanding your knowledge, so YouTube is a great resource for that, because especially like once you get to be a black belt, and you have, all the basics, and you know how to do this and that and the other, you got to keep learning. So YouTube is it's amazing resource for that. But I'm also lucky to have some people that I train with out here on a semi-regular basis. I haven't lately just because of the move, but like there's a guy, CJ Lee, who's right next door in Castro Valley, who's a really top flight. He was I think he was the national champion of South Korea, and then he has some friends of his, like Master Han, Ji-Hwan Han, who's right next door in Oakland. He was on the 2004 Olympic team for South Korea. And then there's another guy, Master Choi, and his wife, another Master Lee, they're over in Mountain View, and they all know each other. They were all in the Olympics, and they're like super, super high level. And the funny thing is, most of them make their living by teaching Taekwondo. So they have they have a Taekwondo. They're like also super high level Taekwondo black belt. So they do, they teach Taekwondo to make their money. And then they also have like a couple judo classes during the week just for fun.
That's fascinating. So you visit with them to keep up your own judo skills. Is that correct?
Yes. And just to be reminded that, as the saying goes, there's levels to the game. You go there and like, it's like, oh my God, these guys are like so far above me in terms of like technique and just the hours and, the competition that they've been, really world-class judoka and teachers. They're also really great teachers, which is really, I also learned from them how to teach, which is nice.
That's fantastic. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your facilities? Because I saw, of course, like I said before, I follow you on Instagram and your club page on Instagram. So I saw a lot of the work that went into your mats, for example. So
yeah,
tell us, I don't think you had that kind of setup in your other locations. Maybe you did, correct me if I'm wrong, but this seemed like a new approach. So tell me a little bit about your flooring and your mats and what you decided to do, because I got to believe they must feel fantastic.
They do feel pretty great. And actually, we have had the same kind of floors in the last 2 locations. So in the t-shirt shop with Jose, we built what's called the Denver floating floor. You probably heard about that. Most of
Yes.
your listeners probably know what that is, that's basically like the foam. It's like foam blocks, and then 2 layers of plywood, and then the mats on top of that. And so we did that there, and then we moved to Oakland Strength Factory. We built a whole nother floor over there. And then we came over here and we did the same thing. So each one was a little bit different, but we're getting pretty good at it. So, but I signed a 5-year lease here, so hopefully we won't have to do it again. So
sure. Now, for the benefit of the listeners that may not know what that is, can you briefly explain what that flooring is?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, it's called the Denver floating floor, I guess, because there was a dojo in Denver that first came up with it. Basically, instead of putting the mats directly on the floor, which is, if you have good mats, that's pretty good. But even so, it can be pretty hard on the body. So what you do is you take you got your 4x8 sheets of plywood, 4 foot by 8 foot, and on each of those 4x8 sheets of plywood, you put between 30 and 36 pieces of closed cell polyethylene foam. And I used to order from Wisconsin Foam, but I found out that pool noodles, the things you play with in the pool, are they're made of exactly the same material. And it's not cheaper to get them as pool noodles, but they're a lot more accessible. So like to finish the job, I went to Walmart a couple times and got some jumbo pool noodles, and then chopped them up into 3 inches long each, and then use some construction adhesive and just glue them onto the plywood. Then you flip them over, and so if you can visualize, you got these plywood with the foam on it, and you flip it over, and then you lay out your mat space, and then you put another layer of plywood on top of that layer of plywood, with the seams overlapping. So and then you just screw the 2 layers together using drill and wood screws, and then you're set. I mean, although there was another little wrinkle for this one, because the mat area, it doesn't go wall to wall. You had to leave a little walkway.
Right.
So we put a big 4x8 piece of lumber on the side, and then drilled that into the concrete, and then we drilled the plywood into that side piece, so it won't shift around.
That's fascinating. I'm glad you shared that, because I was just envisioning all the work involved. So what kind of costs does that what kind of mat space do you have? How big?
It is just about 850 square feet, the mats themselves. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. What company did you go with? Are these mats that you've always had, or did you buy new mats for this new location?
I got new mats because I wanted it to look a certain way. So I ordered them from Dolomir, and I got they're the kind of green tatami, the classic green tatami look.
Yeah.
With the red competition squares painted on. So I got the Flexi rolls, the Flexi Connect rolls, not the standard tatami. Because if you get the standard tatami, you can just get either red tatamis or green tatamis and lay them out however you want. So I got the rolls, which meant that they had to paint it on, with some kind of special matte paint, and then they ship them out in, like, I think it was about 7 rolls, and then you just roll them out, and there you are.
That's fantastic. Yeah, those Dollar mats are great. That's what I train on currently. The club that I'm at, they don't have a floating floor like that. It's really an elevated floor, but it almost serves the same purpose. It's elevated just because our club sometimes has an issue with flooding because of all the rain. So they elevated the mats probably about 6 inches off the ground, just but there's no foam or anything, but it acts almost as a floating floor of sorts with the foam and everything. So it's a nice fall. I never ever use crash mats because I can't stand them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a similar type of setup. So that's really great. So So how do the adults like that's set up there? I gotta think that for the newbies, it really saves on their bodies, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, for newbies don't know. People who've never done judo don't know how it's supposed to feel. You know what I mean? So but so they don't really remark on it. But people who have old timers who have done judo before, they come and they're like, oh wow, the floor is just really nice.
Oh, that's a
It's really
good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Yeah, I've done judo on 1-inch puzzle mats on top of concrete. That's
Ooh, yeah, that's dangerous.
yeah, it is. But I've done it. So no, I definitely appreciate a good floor.
Yeah, yeah.
So how about so you said you're going to look to bring in a some Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well. Do you have so when it comes to the wrestling portion of it, do you have a wrestling coach that comes in and splits the rent, or are you the one doing the wrestling, the coaching for wrestling as well?
Yeah, I'm teaching the wrestling class. I wrestled in high school. I didn't wrestle in college, but I wrestled in high school. And when I wrestled in high school, it was one of my judo senseis, not my main judo sensei, but one of the black belts in the club. He was like, Jonah, you got to wrestle. And so he was this guy named Anthony Daniels that I owe him, really, because when I went to wrestling, high school wrestling is different than the wrestling we do. Like, I have kids from age 6 up to 11 basically doing the wrestling. So, we just have fun with it. We learn wrestling. In high school, though, you really turn into a savage. They turn you into a savage beast. And then I came back from wrestling season and got on the judo mat and brought that same wrestling mentality to the judo mat. And I started winning a lot more matches. So technique or attitude wise, I think wrestling and judo really go together. Yeah. So
interesting.
So that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So you do teach the wrestling as well, and do you keep that completely separate from the judo? So you actually have maybe kids that come in that are just looking for wrestling. Do you have that, or is it just something that you incorporate as part of your curriculum?
No, yeah, it's a separate class. We wear wrestling shoes, and we do have kids that come in just for wrestling. I always encourage them. I say, hey, you should give the judo classes a try. It's and it's all included, like the kids program for $119. It's like the judo, the wrestling, unlimited classes, whatever you want. So I always encourage my judo kids to come to wrestling, and I encourage my wrestling kids to come to judo. But so there's some crossover, but then there's some kids that are just wrestling and just judo.
And you mentioned earlier that you're looking to bring in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
Is that with the affiliation that you're currently with?
Yes, definitely. So I'm super excited about that. I just haven't worked out the schedule yet, so we don't have it on the schedule yet. But I've been learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while now, and I got my purple belt, and
nice.
So either maybe I'll teach the classes, or maybe there's actually also a lot of brown and black belts in our Carlson Gracie Association that I might be able to bring in and teach here. So that would be awesome too. I would go to those classes.
Yeah, of course. Especially you get some brown or black belts in there. So how are you liking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I mean, you said you've been doing it a while. I got to assume you've been doing it a few years now that you're a purple belt.
Yes, I mean, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was doing it last time we talked too. I think I was a blue belt at that point.
Oh, okay.
And and it's it's great. My coach Omar Kazdi is out here, and he's a savage, and I train with a lot of cool people, and it's just, I don't know what to say that wouldn't be the same as what other judo black belts who started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would say, but I'll just say it anyway. Basically, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's fun because, number one, it's way more creative and involved on the ground.
Yeah, it is.
Because there's no pins, it's not like, oh, I pinned you, now we're done. It's like, right. you just keep going from there. And then, so you have a lot more options, and it's nice that I think culturally it's a nice mix, because club, but it's way more relaxed than judo. There's less formality, and that has its pluses and minuses. So So, don't get me, it's not like judo's so stuffy. Like, I love the judo etiquette and like the bowing and all this stuff. And, but I also appreciate, the jiu-jitsu, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu way, which is like, you come in, you say what's up, you give a pound to your coach, and then you just start working out. And, it's just a lot looser and more relaxed. So it's that can be an excellent learning environment as well. So.
Yeah, really, a lot of your experiences really echo mine, and I'm really loving doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I know a lot of the old school guys won't appreciate hearing something like, that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is more, it's a lot more options on the ground, I would say, but it really is true. Really the movements, it is different. It's very different. It's not just judo on the ground. It's a very different approach. And I'm really excited doing it because just learning the different body movements and moving in a very different way than what I'm used to in judo is really I just love doing it. I love challenging I love challenging myself physically to do things that I don't do normally. It's taking me.
What's your favorite sweep from the bottom? What's your favorite jiu-jitsu sweep?
Honestly, just a scissor sweep. I'm actually pretty good at it. I just have this little weird way that I get at it, and it's really it's my go-to sweep every time. I hear that there's a lot of people talk about new school versus old school jiu-jitsu. I don't know the difference. I probably would be an old school guy. I stick to the basics. But the basics work for me. I just don't have the speed or the flexibility to do, these weird handstands on my head and move around to the side and somehow end up in a triangle from bottom. I can't do that kind of stuff, but I'm very methodical in my approach. And but I'm still learning different things. I love working open guard and spider guard and doing. I got a sweep from spider guard that's pretty reliable for me. Nice. So there's things like that my main judo instructor was a jiu-jitsu brown belt. So when he taught me judo on the ground in the waza, it kind of had a Brazilian jiu-jitsu flair to it, I guess. I mean, we did practice a lot of osaikomi and such, but he taught me like he was the only person in judo that ever taught me specific stuff from half guard, let's say, or basic stuff from half guard, where any other judo club I've been in, that was just never taught. So things like that, I just learning movements and being challenged in that way. Yesterday I was rolling with a blue belt at my club, but his name is Leo, and he was just, I was trying to push him a little bit, just doing my best, really, and just the way that he's moving and getting in different positions. He swept me a couple times. I got caught in a triangle, and I was like, goodness gracious! These are just movements and opportunities that now my whole body is relearning. Because I tell people all the time in judo that in order to be good at judo, you have to learn movements that are completely unnatural. And now judo for me is very natural, but Brazilian jiu-jitsu, not so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to say that when you discover new submissions on the grounds that you had no idea were there, it's as if you've been living in this big house for 20 years, and then you discover there's like this hidden room you never knew. And I'm gonna go into this room. Wow, look at this room. There's like a whole living room over here.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it feels. So it's really exciting to be a student all over again. I mean, I'm always student. I'll always be a student in judo, but I think you know what I mean. Just going, me being a 2-stripe white belt, and just kind of going through that process of learning all over again. So it's a lot of fun. It's nice to be a student again. And I mean, I've been a little not slacking on the podcast, but I train 4 or 5 days a week now. So it's good to be too busy to do other things. But that's why I was itching to get you back on the podcast, because I was thinking to myself, God, if I don't get Jonah on this next episode, I'm gonna be talking about I don't know, the latest movie I saw or something.
Avengers.
No, it was actually X-Men, but
Yes, by the way, I think that's good.
So, I've just been so busy with practice, and, there's days that I go 2 hours straight. That really wears on me being, well, you got to be over 40 now, right?
I am. Yes. I'll be 41 later this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm 44, and it gets challenging as you get older. It really does. And it's not, things that were easy for me at 40 are not so easy at 44. It's interesting to see that transition. So, and I think for me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a nice transition for me to extend my ability to practice over the long term,
Yeah. Definitely.
So, well, Jonah, I really appreciate your time. I know you've got a class coming up in probably about 20, 30 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much of it. But can you let the listeners know how they can follow you or reach out to you, or perhaps just people locally that may want to check out your club? So why don't you tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. The website is 510 Judo, just the numbers 510judo.com. We're on Instagram. It's 510 Judo, and also Facebook if you look us up. Also I want to just let you know a friend of mine, Zach Costa. He started a MMA program in the space that we left. So we left that space. Our mats are still there. And so he started a no-gi jiu-jitsu, kickboxing MMA program called Catch MMA. So if you're looking to do some MMA training, check out Catch MMA in Oakland. We're over here in San Leandro, which, you could come from. We got people that come from Berkeley, Oakland, Hayward, Castro Valley, the whole, even from Orinda. So come check us out. Come do some judo, do some wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, get your kids in class, whatever, and come enjoy the benefits of judo training.
Fantastic, Jonah. Jonah, congratulations on all your success. It's been a real pleasure conversing with you all over these years, and just seeing all the changes in your club and you moving around and stuff. It's a lot of exciting stuff happening at your club. So I just wanted to thank you again for coming on to the podcast, and again, congratulations on all your success. It's really exciting to see. I a lot of times I talk about judo in the United States. Sometimes I come off more negative than I really intend to, but I want to focus on the positive. And you, my man, you're doing a lot of great things out there, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, and I really appreciate your podcast too. It's like it's hours upon hours of free entertainment. And also, speaking of positive things, I just want to give a shout out to my buddy Chris Moulton, who I mentioned earlier. He got third place in the senior elite division, not the masters division, not the novice division, at the recent USA Nationals in Las Vegas. And he's a guy who just got his black belt like 2-3 years ago. He wrestled in college, so he has, kind of a leg up, but he's been working super hard, and he represents UC Berkeley Judo in that competition, but he trains with us a lot. So I just wanted to say congratulations, Chris. And thanks again for the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations, Chris, also from me. Hey, one last thing before I let you go. Any parting thoughts of the senior nationals? I'm curious to hear what you thought, because I haven't actually talked to anybody who was there.
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought Vegas was a great choice because it is easy to get to. There's lots of flights from anywhere in the USA. Attendance, I heard from Serge Boyaso that attendance was up 40-50%. I think last year in Texas it was under 400 competitors in Texas, and this year was up closer to 700. So I thought it was great. I thought it was a well-run tournament. They had these big championship belts.
I saw.
Did you see those? Oh, they're so cool. Like WWE or boxing style. I thought they were really fun. Of course, nothing's perfect. I'm sure that there was a few things that happened that aren't perfect, but overall, I thought it was a really well-run tournament. And if they had it in Las Vegas every year, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Sin City, it doesn't surprise me that the numbers were up. Maybe that's a good thing. I think you may have a point there. Maybe they just keep it in Vegas every year. I think they should keep that tournament in the same place every year if they can pull that off. I don't think you need to round robin it. I don't think you need to move it up to, Cucamonga or
think,
whatever, some place way out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah. Also, I would just like to just say I forgot their names, unfortunately, but just, everyone I dealt with at the tournament as a USA Judo employee was like super nice. Like, obviously, I'm not saying USA Judo has its problems. It's definitely not a perfect organization. But as far as like, people that I met at the tournament, like I had this one woman in a novice division who had, she was in the wrong division. So I had to switch her up, and they were super nice about it. They were right on top of it. And there was no like, it was definitely like it seemed like an organization, as far as I could tell, with an emphasis on customer service. They were like, how can we help? We're here for you, kind of a thing. So that was the impression I got. So good job, USA Judo.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I appreciate you sharing that because, like I said, sometimes I sound a little down on USA Judo. And I don't mean to. I really don't. The live streaming thing. Look, I'm not backing off on that. That should have been announced weeks in advance, and to announce that day of, I don't know. Somebody dropped the ball there. They can do better. But
for sure.
But overall, I that's really great to hear. That's exciting news, and well, congrats to USA Judo for having a well-run tournament. It's not easy to do. That much is certain.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, well, Jonah, I won't keep you. Again, I appreciate your time, and best of luck to you, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. All right, take care. Now, on our off-air conversation, Jonah revealed to me that he is engaged to be married, and he will be getting married next month in Hawaii, in Maui, or on Maui, or whatever you want to call it. So I'd like to congratulate Jonah and his lovely bride-to-be on their engagement and eventual wedding, which I think is fantastic. Now listen, Jonah, hopefully she's on board with you being a judo instructor, because you never know with some women. They may be like, oh, honey, The Bachelor is coming on. I'd really love for you to sit here and stay home and watch it with me. Don't fall for that crap, Jonah. I'm telling you, I did in my first marriage, and I haven't fell for that crap in my second marriage. And, God forbid that happens to you, my friend. So I got to say, that show is horrible. I don't know how anybody watches that show, and I don't know how that show has been on for so long. It's the most BS contrived piece of crap I have ever watched on TV, and I let my wife know every single time that she is sitting down in front of it. She actually doesn't even want me in the room, because I can't help myself but comment, and I'm like, look at this douchebag here pandering to all these women and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. I can't stand that show. So, like I was saying with my diatribe earlier with regards to Father's Day and being real men, well, real men don't sit there and watch The Bachelor with their wives. I'm sorry to say. If you watch The Bachelor with your wife, well, shame on you. And if you want to sit there and defend the honor of The Bachelor, reach out to me. You can do so at judochopsueyshow@gmail.com. You can always follow me on Instagram at La Vida Judoka. My Instagram is awesome, and you will find pictures of me in my new Cobra Kai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi. You will find pictures of me sporting the Warriors gi. And most recently, you will find a picture of me, and, well, it's not really me. It's a picture of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu white belt with 4 stripes on it. Thank you very much. You can always follow me on Twitter, which is also at La Vida Judoka. My Twitter's not nearly as awesome as my Instagram, but it's getting better. I like to tweet at Fantasy Judo at times whenever my team sucks. I like to remind them that I think their system is rigged, even though it's not at all. What else? Oh, yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. You can search for the Judo Chop Suey Podcast on Facebook. I appreciate all the follows on there. That page is growing quite a bit, and I can't believe the amount of outreach that I've seen with the podcast on my last episode. I couldn't believe how many eyeballs took a look at it. California leads the way in terms of downloads for my last episode, and really for the entire podcast. In terms of states in the United States, it's California by a mile. And then in terms of countries, I've got the United States. I get the most listens in the United States, which makes sense, which is followed by Canada and the UK and then Australia. So I appreciate everybody that listens inside the country, outside the country, far and wide. I get emails from people from places that I didn't even know existed. It really is something else to really experience for myself the outreach that this podcast has. And I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every time I release an episode. And I want to thank each and every one of you new listeners that have maybe listening for the very first time. I really appreciate you checking out the podcast. And let's see, if you want to add me as a Facebook friend, if you have the cojones to do so, you could search for me at Dave Roman. Just if you add me as a friend, shoot me a message and say, hey, I listened to the podcast. Hey, Dave, I think you're awesome. Whatever it is you want to send me a message, at least just shoot me a message saying that you're a listener, and I will add you as a friend, and we can be Facebook friends for the rest of our lives. And I would just love nothing more than that, than to harass you on Facebook on whatever whatever it is I want to harass you on. So that's what you get if you add me as a friend. So if you want to do that, go right ahead. Just let me know you're a listener, because like I said before, I'll say it again. Sometimes I get these friend requests from beautiful women from Russia, and I don't trust any of them, sorry to say. So let's see. I think that's going to be it for me on this episode. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Train hard. Stay safe out there. Until next time, I'm out.
Open Gangnam Style.